Here we're going to go over the economy pump filler controls on the HMI. Over here on the left-hand side, you'll see your main toggles. Those are going to be the master switches. So those will just turn that function completely off or on. Starting at the bottom down here will be if you have a supply pump that's used to fill some sort of tank or tote that's going to be supplying your pump. Your conveyor will be if you're running a conveyor of some sort being controlled by our machine. The fill heads is going to do just that. It's going to control the fill heads and also activating the fill pump. And your fill cycle button up there, if you hit that once, it will stay on. And if you're running in an automatic mode, it will just continue to run. If you hit it a second time, it will just run one cycle and then it will stop. Up here at the top, you're going to have the access to all of your tabs for your setup screen, manual toggle screen, timer screen, and recipe screen. Here in the middle, you're in for your container count. So that will display the containers as it's being counted by the photo eye as they're running through the cycles. And down here at the bottom will populate with any sort of alarms that are coming up when you're running the machine. So from here, if I were to go to the setup tab, it's going to be my main functions that are optional on this. So I can go to a manual mode here for my indexing if I just want to slide a container underneath the fill head. Or I can turn this on to pin, and that'll allow me to use a conveyor with typical pin indexing. Fill hold, I can turn this on or off. If I want to use that, that'll wait to initiate the fill cycle until my float for my tank is satisfied. My drip tray here, I can turn this off or on if I'm using the optional drip tray. Up the top here, you see a couple more options pop up. We got our ASU function here, or automatic setup, our inputs and outputs screen, and a login screen, which is only used for a maintenance situation or initial setup. So from here, if I were to look at the ASU screen, I can come in here and I could set up my indexing, which we go through in an additional video. You could come in here and clear the timer, and then you could start an indexing ASU. That would populate my times down here. And once I save that, it will automatically save that over into our timer screen, which we'll go to next. I can come up here, I see ASU fill. If I were to go to that tab, that brings up this tab here. So once I have set my pump speed on the front of the machine, I would come in here and I would put a container underneath, and I would reset this presets that is sitting in here for the current, and then push and hold this head ASU button, and the pump will run and the fill head will open the whole time I'm holding that button. Once I let go, it'll populate a pulse count here. So once that's done, I can hit save, and that'll automatically populate that into our timer screen, which I'll show you. Or if you have multiple heads, you can start all of them at the same time and save a reset here at the same time. And then the ASU index will just take us right back to the screen we're already at. So now if I go back to that main screen, and if I were to go back into setup, and if I were to click on this inputs output screen, that would take me here, which shows all of my available inputs at the top and all of my available outputs at the bottom. So you would match that to your schematic, and that would be able to help you out in a diagnostic situation to see what the PLC is actually seeing or doing. Now back from my main screen here, if I were to go to my manual tab, this will allow me to switch my conveyor state to run, which would just run continuous, or I can switch this to auto and it'll start and stop during the fill cycle. Or if I hit my entry gate here or my exit gate here, it will operate those pins. And if I have hit my fill head button, that will toggle my fill head open and activate my fill pump off and on. And the drip tray, if I'm using it, I could operate here. So back to my main screen here. If I were to go to my timers tab, it's going to load up my timer screen. So starting here, we're going to have the entry delay, which when you are setting up your pin indexing, as your exit gate opens and allows your containers to leave, this would be the amount of time that it waits to open the entry gate to create a gap between the old containers and the new containers so that your exit gate has somewhere to close. The in-feed count, that's going to be how many bottles you're going to want to have underneath your fill heads or in between your two gates. Generally matches your fill head number. No bottle, no fill time is going to be the amount of time that a container has to sit in front of your count sensor in order for the PLC to recognize it. Your exit duration is going to be the amount of time that the machine holds the exit pin open, allowing the containers to leave that were filled. Fill start delay is going to be the amount of time after the containers are indexed in. How long does it wait before it opens the fill heads? Fill pulses, that's going to be how many pulses the PLC is going to wait to turn off the fill pump. So that'll ultimately set your fill level. So this is where this is automatically going to populate during that ASU, and you can just fine tune it here. So higher pulse count is going to be a more higher fill level, lower pulse count is going to be a lower fill level. And if I next over, it'll take me here. This will give me my exit retract delay in a new cycle. So this is going to be after the machine fills your container. How long does it wait after the fill head turns off before it pulls the exit pin back for the containers to leave? You can use this if you have a drippy product, you want to give a little bit more time for that to clear, or if you have a long fill nozzle that you want to make sure you got time to get it out of the way. That's where you would use that. The float delay is going to be how long the float has to hang in the down position before it turns on the fill or the product supply pump or opens the product supply valve. And that'll help create or eliminate sloshing inside of the tank from your product supply pump turning off and on too quickly. Your backup on will be how long the line backup sensor has to see a container before the PLC recognizes it. And cycle reset delay is going to be how long it'll wait to restart the second cycle after it finishes the first. So you would use that to slow down the filler if you're overrunning slower equipment down the line. So now from back to my main menu, the next and final tab would be the recipes tab. If I were to click on that, this is what you would see here. You come here, you have 1 through 5. So 5 available recipes. You can click on this dialog box, enter number 1 through 5, and you can either load that recipe if you have something there to use now, or you can overwrite and save over that number for use later.